So let's talk about the Creoles and the free population, as well as mulattoes. When we begin to look at the word Creole, we've already ascertained that this is Portuguese in its origin. When we begin to look, the original definition begins to apply to those living in the Portuguese colony and not the Portuguese population. The Portuguese are defined as the blackest of the Sephardic Jews. Now, we begin to know that the Sephardic Jews were pushed into Spain, Portugal, the entire Eurasia subcontinent in 722 BC, which can be verified in the book of Isaiah, the book of Kings, and the book of the Chronicles, as well as history. When we begin to see these tribes that were taken into this captivity, these are the Northern Kingdom Israelites. These are the 10 tribes, whereas Benjamin, Levi, and Judah, and part of Simeon began to stay back in West Africa, and the tribe of Gad, one of the priests, came back into West Africa in order to teach the priesthood. When we began to look at this as the lost sheep of the house of Israel, it's essential to know that the Northern Kingdom was also called Israel. It was called Ephraim and the lost sheep. When Yeshua was in the New Testament, he was very vehement by stating that he was going after the Northern Kingdom Israelites. And he vehemently told the Israelites not to go after the Gentiles. The Gentiles were the Arabic nations. When we begin to look at this, we can begin to ascertain exactly what was taking place in the New Testament. In the book of Acts, the 6th chapter and the 9th verse, it begins to state that the Israelites whom lived in Syria, Alexander, so on and so forth, were identified as the Libertines. When we look at the word Libertines, the root L-I-B-E-R is going to denote freedom. When we begin to look at the word Creole, the root of it is Creole, which is C-R-E-A-R-E. It means to form, to birth, to spring out. This is the same root as create. The direct translation from creare in Latin is libro in Hebrew, or livro. The V and B are mutually exchangeable due to the letter bet. When we look at libro, this is the root of libir, which in Spanish means to read. The Bible begins to tell us that my people suffer due to the lack of knowledge, correlating reading with freedom. When we begin to look at the root of the word libir for read, L-I-B-R-O, it goes back to liber, L-I-B-E-R, of freedom, correlating the root word of Creole to the etymological root of the word libertine in Hebrew, which begins to deduce that the free population, or the Libertines in Acts 6, were the Creole of Europe, your Sephardic Jews. When we begin to continue to look at this word, it also begins to teach us about the creation, the first of creation. The ancient Hebrews often began to say that they lived before Adam, making them the first of creation. When we begin to look at Ephraim, the root of Ephraim is going to be the Ephir, which is Ephraim's name, the son of Abraham and Keter. This means dusty. This is the same root, A-P-I-R-U, as Ipiru, whom the Hebrews were identified as in 2000 BC as they began to leave Ur of Chaldee due to the famine in 2181 BC that is chronicled in the book of Genesis, the 12th chapter. When we continue and see that root not only means dusty, when you begin to break down the deeper root, and this root is also shared with Ophir. Ophir is the son of Joktan in the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter, who is not only the founder of the southern Arabian Peninsula, he is the father of the Ansar, A-N-S-A-R, or the helpers of Muhammad. Joktan name also means to diminish, to make small, or to make little. And when we begin to look at the I-L-L-O in Latin, this literally means little. So the Joktan Arabs are their last name in English. So if your last name is Little, then you are a descendant of the Joktan Arabs, more than likely. And your people were possibly the Creole, due to the suffix and the linguistics relationship. When we begin to look at this deeper root of Ephraim, is going to bring us to P-A-R-A, which is para, meaning to be fruitful and to multiply. When we begin to look at the book of Genesis, those whom were created in the image and in the likeness of the Most High, their commandments were to be fruitful and to multiply. Due to the ancient Igbo being called Hebo, as well as Ebo, E-B-O, this is going to lead us to understand that these are the descendants of Eber in the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter, deducing that they indeed were the first of creation due to being formed or springing out of the dust of the ground. When we begin to look at this root para in ancient Egypt, for us P-R-H out of Ophir and Ephah would be Pharaoh, but the root of Pharaoh in Egypt is Pere, P-E-R-A-A. When we begin to look at the definition of Pere in Hebrew, this is going to be long-haired. It's very important to know that the pharaohs with long hair were ruling ancient Egypt through the Nakata 1, Nakata 2, and Nakata 3 period. These people group were also ruling ancient Peru at the same time. You begin to see tattooed, long-haired, blue people described as the Picts in Europe at that time as well. These are your ancient Libyans, and amongst these Libyans, you had the Libertines. When we begin to look at the word mulatto, now we know that we've been taught that this means mule or hybrid. When we look at the original Arabic and Hebrew definition of muladwad, M-U-W-A-D and M-U-W-A-L-L-A-D, M-U-L-W-A-D-I, muladwad, muladi. This word is going to refer to the first, the indigenous or the native Christians. So these were first century Israelites. These were the tribe of Ephraim who were living in Spain and in Portugal under Islamic rule. It's essential to know that the Mandinkan, Mindi, and Yoruba DNA were found in 525 AD, fighting against the Byzantine Empire during this time, and that the Mandinka people are known to be direct descendants of the Solomonic dynasty, and the Yoruba are called Beni Ephraim, as well as strange people by the West Africans. So when we begin to look at these free Negroes coming into Louisiana and into Mississippi of Spanish, Portuguese, French, and German descent, we begin to deduce that these are the free Negroes, free mulattoes, the Creoles, the Libertines of the Bible. These are the tribes of Ephraim.